Hi, my name is Madeline Consola, and I am giving a persuasive speech on the border wall. My opponent argues that the U.S. should not build President Trump's proposed security wall along the Mexican border. I want to argue that the border wall could actually be an asset to the United States, especially when it comes to drug trafficking and illegal immigration. There is generally a negative connotation about building this wall that is supposed to keep illegal immigrants out of the U.S. A lot of illegal immigrants are great additions to this country and are doing nothing to harm U.S. citizens. They simply want a better life for them and their families, and I don't think that they are to blame for wanting this. However, it gets risky. One of the risky things is that because even though it is a small percentage of illegal immigrants that are actually violent, why bring even more violence into the U.S.? 1.6% of immigrant males aged between 18 and 39 are incarcerated while being in the U.S. My opponent also talks about how building a wall will waste billions of tax dollars and immigrants will still be here, wall or no wall. Of course, there's truth to this because there's very little chance that a wall can completely resolve the issue of illegal immigrants and drug cartels crossing our border. But something to keep in mind is that according to the Horn News, the cost of building the wall will not be taken from U.S. tax dollars. There's a lot of talk about how crazy Trump's plan is to make Mexico pay for the wall, but even though Mexico doesn't want to just hand over a check, obviously, there are many indirect ways that the U.S. could receive money from them. One way is to increase the visa fee. Another way is to increase the toll fees on bridges. And yes, immigrants will always be in the U.S. regardless of a wall being put in place. However, with this wall in place, the idea is that the amount of legal immigrants will increase and the amount of illegal immigrants will decrease. My opponent also states that illegal immigrants are actually creating jobs in the United States. I have no doubt that there are illegal immigrants that are creating jobs, since there are so many of them, roughly 12 million. That is a considerable amount of people, and if a lot of them are starting smaller businesses, chances they are creating jobs for their American neighbors. However, according to Politico magazine, decades of record immigration have produced lower wages and higher unemployment for our citizens, especially for African American and Latino workers. When people say that immigration doesn't have any negative effects, they are not being truthful or just don't completely understand how it works. When the supply of workers goes up, the price that the firms have to pay workers goes down. Even if the economy fully adjusts, the skill groups that received the most immigrants will still offer lower wages than the groups that received fewer immigrants. My opponent also says that filling in the gaps of the wall at the border that is already used to prevent drug trafficking will not help because cartels can still go through. They still find numerous ways to get drugs across by using submarines, hang gliders, etc. Getting really creative. It doesn't seem like it would hurt to do a little more damage control with a wall. If the wall is built well, it has the potential to prevent a lot of illegal drugs from crossing the border. The wall needs to be at least 30 feet tall, and it needs to be it needs to be impossible to cut through. This wall has great potential to help the drug cartel situation and the crossing of legal immigrants. My opponent also states that legalizing certain drugs could help combat the illegal drug industry. This is an interesting suggestion because legalizing hard drugs like heroin, cocaine, oxycodone, crack, meth, which are the most popular drugs to cross the border, doesn't seem like such a great idea. Think of all the addicts that would have super easy access to drugs just by going to a dispensary such as a marijuana dispensary. Instead of legalizing drugs, rehabilitation facilities need to be improved and people need to have better counseling. Legalizing drugs is not the solution. If anything, that will just increase drug use and create more drug addicts and people addicted to hard drugs. Without immigration, the U.S. population would shrink and birth rates would go down, causing the job market in the U.S. to shrink. having devastating effects on the economy, such as those in Japan or Italy. This is another statement that my opponent makes. This is also an interesting statement because this doesn't specify whether illegal immigrants or legal immigrants have large effects on the population. If people are still legally immigrating, then there will not be a problem with the population shrinking. Although creating this wall tends to be the unpopular opinion, there are many potential positives from the wall. First of all, the U.S. will not have as nearly incoming drug traffic. Second of all, illegal immigrants will need to acquire visas and become legal before living in the U.S. Thirdly, the positive effects outweigh the negative ones, and U.S. citizens will not be poorly impacted. They will not have to pay for the wall. Thank you.